Increased production meant that more products were available, but buying them was not always a good idea. Consumers often did not know what was in the product because the government did not regulate product quality. Meat was one example. In his 1906 novel The Jungle, muckraker Upton Sinclair wrote about unsanitary conditions in meat packing plants. There would be meat stored in great piles in rooms, and water from leaky roofs would drip over it, and thousands of rats would race about it. Sinclair reported that rat droppings and even the rats themselves often became part of the processed meat. Canned goods were not regulated either. Toxic chemical preservatives would contaminate many processed foods. Many medicines like cough syrup were also unregulated. Some products made ridiculous claims for curing illnesses, with the cures often involving narcotics. These substances were not prohibited, but their risks were becoming more apparent. Popular magazines told stories of consumers who believed that these medicines would cure their illnesses, only to fall prey to drug addiction. In addition to busting trust, the progressive presidents tried to protect consumers. Two key laws were passed in 1906 during Theodore Roosevelt's presidency: the Meat Inspection Act and the Pure Food and Drug Act, a 1906 federal law that established the Food and Drug Administration to test and approve drugs before they go on the market. Meanwhile, the growth of big business went largely unregulated. As monopolies took over many industries, many Americans worried that small companies were being driven out of business and that monopolies were shifting opportunity. Muckrakers protested that big businesses were growing richer, while small businesses and poor struggled even harder to survive. Ida Tarbell was a muckraking journalist who devoted her life to fight to end monopolies and trust. Her target was John D. Rockefeller. She wrote an expose in Forbes magazine in 1902 that exposed the ruthless and illegal practices of John D. Rockefeller's Standard Oil. One famous progressive was Robert Lafayette, governor, senator, and representative of Wisconsin from 1900s to 1906. Under his guidance, the state passed laws to limit lobbying, conserve forests and other natural resources, and support purchasing. Lafayette took a strong stand against the railroads, which controlled the distribution of many products, including meat and grain, by charging favored customers lower rates for carrying freight. The railroads made it hard for other businesses to compete. Lafayette responded by forming a commission to regulate railroad rates. He also convinced the legislature to increase taxes on the railroads. He declared, "The great issue before the American people today is the control of the government and industry by private monopoly." He pressed for antitrust laws and laws that protected big business. Lafayette also pushed for tax changes that forced corporations to pay higher taxes. Roosevelt began the Progressive Trust-Busting movement. To regulate monopolies, he used the Sherman Antitrust Act. This law made illegal every contract combination in the form of trust or otherwise, or conspiracy in restraint of trade or commerce. The law had been passed in 1890, but had been ineffective. Its language was vague and enforcement was weak. Roosevelt believed that the government should regulate monopolies to make sure they operated for the good of the nation. However, he was not opposed to big business. "We do not wish to destroy corporations," he said, "but we do wish to make them serve the public good." In addition to breaking up J.P. Morgan's Northern Securities Company, Roosevelt limited the power of railroads to set rates and stifle business competition. In 1906, he signed the Hepburn Act, which gave the federal government the authority to set maximum rail shipping tax. Wilson took even stronger action by helping to push the Clayton Antitrust Act through Congress. Passed in 1914, the Clayton Act extended the power of the Sherman Act by laying out rules that made it harder for trusts to form and squeeze out the competition. For example, the law made it illegal for a company to lower prices in one market but not others, to try to force out local competitors. To help raise more revenue for the federal government and make the tax system more fair and equitable, Wilson lobbied hard for new tax laws. Supported by Wilson and ratified in 1913 by Congress, the 16th Amendment legalized and graduated federal income tax, which provided revenue by taxing individual earnings and corporate profits. Next, Wilson turned his attention to financial reform. The nation needed a way to strengthen the ways in which banks were run, as well as a way to quickly adjust the amount of money in circulation. Both credit availability and money supply had to keep pace with the economy. Wilson's solution was to establish a decentralized private banking system under federal control. The Federal Reserve Act of 1913 divided the nation into 12 districts and established a regional central bank in each district. The Federal Reserve banks could issue new paper currency in emergency situations, and member banks could use the new currency to make loans to their customers. Federal Reserve banks could transfer funds to member banks in trouble, saving the banks from closing and protecting customer savings. One of Wilson's most enduring achievements, the system still serves as the basis for the nation's banking system.